40, pick up the saxes, please. Ready? 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 3. Ready? 1, 2 and 1, 2, 3. How y'all feel about that run?
Not very much energy.
Yeah, it was felt a little lackadaisical.
I think it's slow down a little bit.
I feel like this tune is a great tune to warm up on. I haven't decided if it's a tune I want you guys to do at Jazz and PA. If it is, it'll be our first number. But it's just, it does a lot of things, you know, to kind of make you aware. It's awareness in the tune. And then a little bit of just enthusiasm when you play. And forgive me, my enthusiasm's lacking a little bit. For no particular reason other than I've just got a bunch of things to do today and got it on my mind. But, so, does your enthusiasm come from it getting coached up? Does your enthusiasm come from your own desire to play well? Some of you guys carry like this well-supplied amount of enthusiasm when you play with you, and you have it pretty much all the time. And then there's others that have to be motivated pretty much every time that you play. And if that's the case, you can spend a little time working on you. not your music, you. All right? Why would you be lacking motivation? You're young. You've got your health. You got your whole life ahead of you. There's so many just possibilities as to the things that you can do when you finish this stage of life, grade school. And I'm just always excited and nervous and anxious for my students and what they do once they leave high school, because I want nothing but just the, the stars and the rainbows and all the things we do. But where does that motivation come from? All right, I played you guys some recordings of John Faddis and some Dizzy Gillespie stuff and his crazy psycho high notes that he plays on his trumpet. And when he came to ECU in 2004 and was our guest artist for the Jazz Festival at ECU, he allowed all of us to have a private lesson with him in his top floor Hilton hotel room. And the others were also allowed to sit in on the lesson and watch. He said, sometimes you learn more by watching somebody else's lesson than your own lesson. For those of you who ever in your life have taken a private lesson, those of you that have not ever taken a private lesson, you're missing out. Especially if you find the right teacher, just your learning curve just goes right to the moon. It's amazing what you learn and what you can get from a private lesson, especially with the right teacher. Because it's not always the right teacher. I've had private lessons from people before, and I left after that hour and said, I learned nothing. All right, it's just because there wasn't a connection made in that lesson. And it usually takes 2 or 3 lessons before you make that connection, because you gotta get to a point where you understand that person's methods and pedagogy behind their teaching, and to get to a point where you trust them. And they have to get to a point where they get to know you as a musician to figure out what your strengths and deficiencies are, so they can get a better idea of what to focus on. But in John Faddis's lesson, there was a high schooler that had his lesson right before me. And he had that high schooler playing some chromatic scale pattern exercise. No, I'm sorry, it was a range exercise, and the kid was getting to the same point every time. And Faddis was sitting there on his bed, with his back up against the wall, on his feet propped up, and we had the NFL draft was on the TV in his room, and he had it on mute. And he was kind of watching the TV, and then he turned to look at the student and say, no, man, it's gotta be, and he picked up his horn, and we gotta mute the horn because it's a hotel. And he would play, he would say, you're doing this, but try to do it like this, and you just show him this little thing. And then it was my turn. And he's one of those that has no time for pretentiousness. Do you know that word? One who is pretentious. It typically means one who acts above their means, acts above their ability, acts above who they are. Pretentiousness is a bad thing. You're trying to be something that you're not. Well, if he detects even the slightest ounce of pretentiousness, I think I've mentioned this before, he will toy with you and then turn to stone. Actually stole that line from a really creepy movie from the 90s called The Silence of the Lambs. Right, in talking about Dr. Hannibal Lecter, the murderer. He said, if he detects that you're trying to whatever, he'll toy with you and turn to stone. That's exactly what Faddis would do. But if he could tell that you're humble and that you're there to learn from him, and the only way of developing knowledge from him is to come in knowing that you know nothing, and you're a blank slate for him to create on, then he's great. So that's how I approached it for my lesson. And I said, I would like to work on jazz inflection. It means when I play, I don't sound like a classical player trying to play jazz. I sound like a jazz player, articulation, tone, just shaping of the way that I do with my notes and this and that. He said, okay, he said, play me a Louis solo, like Louis Armstrong. And I said, I don't know any Louis solos. And he goes, none? I said, no, sir. He was like, have you ever transcribed before? I said, yes, sir. What have you transcribed? And I started naming all these other jazz trumpet players. And he was going, oh, that's a good one, okay. He said, all of those guys, as they were developing, who were they listening to? And I said, probably Louis. He says, definitely Louis, because he came before them. He said that that's where it started, so that's where you need to be going from. And it's too late for you to start there, but you can definitely go back. And so he took down a little piece of paper and he wrote down like 8 Louis solos. And he was like, start with those. I said, okay. He was like, well, since you're here, why don't you play me a Clifford Brown solo? I said, all right. So I played a solo from a tune called Sandu. And I'm playing through it, and he would stop me, and he'd pick up his horn, and he'd play it back to me. He was like, listen to the way I play this. And I said, okay, and I played back to him. He was like, no, so you're doing this. And he would demonstrate it exactly like I was. And it was a great lesson. Then I finished. And the lesson after me was Ben Hilton. Was his name. Incidentally, the Hilton Hotel, no relation. But Ben was this guy that was kind of jaded. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Alright. And they pick up his horn and play. There's just something about him. There's just some kind of somewhat of a, it's not really darkness, just a little shaded, or as we would say, jaded. And he sits down, and Faddis immediately looks at him and says, what's wrong with you? You could see right through him. And Ben goes, I don't know. He was like, really? It's you. You don't know? And he said, I guess sometimes I just have trouble with motivation. In fact, I said, all right, put your horn down. He puts his horn down. He says, go downstairs to the parking lot and run around the building 5 times. Then get in the elevator, come back up here, knock on the door, we'll let you in. We're gonna do the other lesson while you're doing that. He said, all right. It was really hot outside that day. We were all dressed in suits. We all were really nice and professional. So he goes down, and I'm peeking out the window way down there. There he is in a suit and a tie running. And then they started up this other guy's lesson, John Gifford. Pretentious, pretentious, pretentious. As soon as Gifford sits down, Faddis goes, and he just kind of glares at him like, who's this putz? And he was like, how can I help you? Can I help you? And Gifford said, well, I'm a lead player, and Faddis goes, great, another student just wants to work on high notes. And he was like, and I thought maybe I'd show you what I can do, and then you can help me from there. He was like, oh, okay. So then he was like, so what do you want me to play? He was like, well, you got it all figured out. You play for me. And Gifford was like, I didn't say I got it all figured out. I'm just like, and I'm thinking, shut up. Shut up. You wasted 5 minutes tossing out some verbal resume. The guy knows nothing about you. So he didn't get it. So he starts playing, and Faddis said, is that all you know how to do? And John said, oh no, man, I can play. He was like, do you know any scales? He says, well, yeah, of course, I know all of them. Oh, you know all of them. Okay, play B minor Superlocrian. Superlocrian. He was like, yeah, you know, created by Phil Woods back in the late 70s. You take the Locrian and then you sharp the 2. And he's looking at me, I'm like, you're on your own. It's not that hard, but if you know it, it's not that hard. So he's screwing around the scales with him for like 40 minutes. And then eventually he was like, all right, well, good luck. Next, and all of a sudden here coming in the door comes Ben, completely out of breath, sweaty, red in the face. He was like, you motivated yet? And Ben goes, I mean, I guess I'm sweaty and I'm tired. He was like, are you motivated? He was like, I don't really understand how this motivates me. And he was like, here's how. And he said a statement that I'll never forget. And this could be applied to any of your instruments. And this could be extremely discouraging if you take it the wrong way. So try not to take it the wrong way. Here it is. He said, he looked at all of me, he said, I want all of you to listen. And he pointed at Ben and he said, the world does not need another trumpet player. He said, there are way, way, way too many trumpet players in the world who are wasting their time because they're not doing what they need to do, not even close to be successful. They're just kind of going through the motions and making sounds. He said, there's way too many of them, and there's not nearly enough who are taking it seriously. He was like, but what you need to know is that there are insanely enough players out there that are so good that even when you get to the level that you're your best, there will always be somebody better. And you better hope and pray they don't audition for the same gig you're auditioning for. But there's a good likelihood that they will be. He said, so if you really want to do this, you will find the motivation. So find it or find something else to do. And I sat there. It was a very quiet moment. The world does not need another trumpet player. And in a way, he was kind of telling the guy, you know, so how many different cliches can I pull out of this? Put up or shut up. Poop or get off the pie. Take it seriously or take up something else. Like so many different things you could say. But, you know, I would never say that to a high school student. Because you guys are still in need of some help. Some of you more than others with finding that motivation. And I want to help you find that motivation. But this was an interesting little demonstration here with you guys of me just kind of standing here and not doing anything. And how did you sound?
Unmotivated.
Yeah, it was just kind of there. But did it feel good? Like, for some of you it might have. All right, but did it feel the way it's supposed to feel? For most of you, probably not. So, I am happy and proud and honored to help you guys find that motivation every day. There is a time where that won't be offered to you anymore after this. You know, when you're done with me. But I want to help you find that motivation because it's worth it. The music's worth it, and you guys are worth it. Okay? All right, let's switch over to recording now. Have a good time. It's gonna be great. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
already marked. It's just
It
marking
didn't
it.
work. Y'all heard me say that before?
Yeah, yeah.
If it's marked and you still miss it, then what do I say?
Mark's useless.
The mark is ineffective. You gotta mark it in a way that you're going to notice. Yes, sir.
About the solo, do you want me to do what's written? Because like in the recording, they
Not how to see
started out
that.
with what's written, but then they did their own thing at the end. Or do you want me to do the same thing, or just do what's written the whole way through?
That's up to you. I'll let you work on that, okay? I'll let you work on that in here. Same here. All right? Yeah, there's only one part of that melody's getting so much better. There's only one part is towards the end. Da 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 dee, da da 2, 3, 4, 1. Da comes in on 2, right?
Yeah.
Make sure that's 2 and not the end of 1. That's the only comment I have for that. 1. Bum, 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 da, da. Okay? Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Let's pick up to 45, da 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 da, but this is gonna be the second time, so we can get to the end, okay? 45, da 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 da, here we go. See where I am?
Teachers, may I have your attention, please? This is just a reminder of ACT training for administrators and proctors this morning. Be in the media center during planning. Again, ACT training for administrators and proctors. So if you're associated with giving to ACT this year, please be in the media center during planning. Thank you.
I'll be there. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 3. Trombones, play your last note. Ready? Go. Okay, everybody Not bad. Not bad. It's hard to kind of keep that tempo moving forward sometimes when you're not used to the tune, but, there was a note. Asia, was it you? 62, C sharp, is that what it was?
Oh, no, that was me.
That was you, you're playing first, that was you, sorry, Asia. Okay, C sharp, so make sure there's a mark on it, a noticeable mark that invokes effect. Change. Okay? Yeah? Right, now we gotta get into some solos.
Piss me off.
Gotta get into some solos.
Oh.
By the way, at MPA, it doesn't have to be those two soloists, and it doesn't have to be only those two soloists. Okay? Maybe sometime we can have a day during then, or after school, or sometime that we can meet with people to actually turn on a backing track for Recordamate and work on solo changes. And I can write them on the board, explain them, and you can see how it's actually a pretty fun tune solo. Okay, all right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great Monday.